Why you should never tell anyone what you're up to. A Christian perspective. Imagine Joseph, the dreamer, standing in front of his brothers, passionately sharing his God-given visions of leadership and greatness. He describes vivid scenes of sheaves bowing down and celestial bodies paying homage. What should have been a moment of awe and inspiration turned into a storm of jealousy, anger, and betrayal. Instead of support, Joseph was met with scorn, and his words became the catalyst for his brother's plot to sell him into slavery. This story is not just ancient history, it's a timeless cautionary tale. How often do we, like Joseph, share our deepest aspirations and find ourselves vulnerable to criticism or sabotage? The lesson here is profound. While sharing dreams and plans can feel empowering, it's not always wise. In fact, the Bible teaches us that there's immense power in silence. In a world that urges us to broadcast our every move, discretion isn't just prudent, it's a form of spiritual armor. This principle isn't about fear or distrust, it's about guarding the divine purpose within you until God's timing is revealed. So what can we learn from Joseph and other biblical figures about keeping our plans close to our hearts? Let's explore why sometimes the best course of action is to stay silent and let God work. The power of silence in a noisy world. We live in an age where everyone seems eager to broadcast their every move. Social media platforms are filled with announcements, plans, and aspirations. The urge to share can feel irresistible, as though speaking our dreams aloud gives them life. Yet, this openness often comes at a cost. As Christians, we are called to approach life with wisdom and discernment, recognizing the dangers of prematurely revealing our plans. Proverbs 17:28 says, "Even fools are thought wise if they keep silent, and discerning if they hold their tongues." This biblical principle underscores the power and protection of silence. In the constant noise of modern life, silence is a rare commodity. By refraining from sharing our plans, we free ourselves from external opinions, distractions, and expectations. This quiet space allows us to reflect deeply and seek God's guidance. When we choose silence, we're not simply withholding words, we're creating room for God to work within us and clarify our path. One of the reasons many people share their aspirations is the desire for validation. We look for applause, approval, or even reassurance that our goals are worthwhile. However, Proverbs 29:25 reminds us, "Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe." Seeking validation from others can trap us in a cycle of dependence on human approval, diverting our focus from God's purpose. When we publicly declare our intentions, we inadvertently invite scrutiny, skepticism, and sometimes outright opposition. Consider Nehemiah, who chose not to reveal his plans to rebuild Jerusalem until the right moment, Nehemiah 2:12. His discretion ensured that he could move forward without unnecessary resistance. Similarly, our silence can protect us from critics who might discourage or hinder us before we've even begun. When we keep our plans private, we rely more heavily on God's guidance and provision. Philippians 4:6-7 urges us to present our requests to God, not the world. By turning to Him in prayer instead of broadcasting our ambitions, we nurture a closer relationship with our Creator and strengthen our faith in His timing and wisdom. Sometimes, the dreams and plans God places in our hearts are meant to be nurtured privately, like seeds planted in fertile soil. Sharing them prematurely can expose them to negativity, doubt, or misunderstanding. In Matthew 7:6, Jesus advises, "Do not give dogs what is sacred. Do not throw your pearls to pigs." This verse serves as a reminder to protect the sacredness of what God has entrusted to us until the time is right to share it. Why silence is a shield. When we openly share our plans, we expose ourselves to jealousy from others who may not understand or support our vision. Joseph's story in Genesis serves as a cautionary tale of how sharing too much with the wrong people can provoke envy and sabotage. His brother's resentment set off a chain of events that included betrayal and suffering. Similarly, in our lives, sharing prematurely can invite unnecessary opposition, whether in the form of criticism, skepticism, or even active efforts to hinder us. Silence, in contrast, acts as a shield. By keeping our plans private, we minimize the risk of attracting negative energy or interference. Instead of seeking external validation, we rely on God's guidance and protection. The Bible reminds us in Ephesians 6:12 that our battles are not just against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces of evil. Speaking openly about our plans can unintentionally alert adversarial forces to our intentions. These forces may seek to obstruct our path or plant seeds of doubt and fear in our hearts. By remaining silent, we not only protect our plans from human interference, but also shield them from spiritual attacks. Silence creates a safe space where God's plans can grow unimpeded by external forces. Proverbs 27:1 warns, "Do not boast about tomorrow, for you do not know what a day may bring." Pride often sneaks in when we speak too much about what we intend to do. Prematurely celebrating our plans can lead to overconfidence, making us less reliant on God and more prone to complacency. Silence, however, keeps us grounded. It reminds us that the completion of our goals is not by our might or power, but by the Spirit of God. Zechariah 4:6. By focusing on action rather than words, we maintain humility and a clear sense of purpose. Talking about our plans can sometimes create a false sense of accomplishment, tricking our minds into feeling that we've already achieved something. This can drain the motivation needed to follow through. Instead, channeling our energy into execution rather than explanation ensures we stay focused on the task at hand. There is wisdom in allowing God to reveal our plans at the right time. Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." When we share too soon, we may rush God's timeline or face unnecessary obstacles. Silence allows us to wait patiently for God's perfect timing and trust that He will reveal our plans to the right people at the right moment. When Nehemiah set out to rebuild the walls of Jerusalem, he kept his plans to himself until the appropriate time. Nehemiah 2:12 says, "I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem." His silence allowed him to prepare thoroughly and avoid unnecessary opposition. Or Jesus. Throughout his ministry, Jesus often instructed his disciples to keep certain revelations private until the appointed time. Matthew 17:9. His example underscores the importance of timing and God's sovereignty in revealing plans. James 1:5 encourages us to ask God for wisdom. Before sharing your plans, seek God's guidance through prayer. Ask whether it's the right time and whether sharing aligns with His will. Not everyone in your life is meant to hear your plans. Identify trustworthy, faith-filled individuals who can offer godly counsel and encouragement without judgment or envy. Ecclesiastes 5:3 reminds us, "A dream comes through much effort." Instead of talking about what you intend to do, channel your energy into pursuing your goals diligently. Isaiah 40:31 assures us that those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. Trust that God will open the right doors and bring the right people into your life when the time is right. While it's wise to keep your plans private during their formative stages, there is immense power in sharing testimonies after God has brought them to fruition. Testimonies are not just stories, they are declarations of God's faithfulness and power. They remind us and others that God is at work in our lives, weaving His perfect plan. Revelation 12:11 declares, "They triumphed over Him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony." When we share our victories, we shift the focus away from ourselves and place it squarely on God. It is a way of saying, "Look what God has done." This glorifies His name and reinforces His sovereignty in every aspect of our lives. Testimonies serve as beacons of hope for others. Hearing how God has moved in someone else's life can reignite faith, especially for those going through difficult seasons. They are living proof that God is faithful and His promises are true. Sharing your story can inspire others to hold on to their faith and trust God with their own dreams and challenges. Sharing testimonies fosters a sense of unity within the Christian community. It reminds us that we are all part of God's larger story and that our individual journeys are interconnected. When one believer shares a victory, it becomes a victory for the entire body of Christ. Testimonies are also for the storyteller. They allow us to look back and reflect on God's faithfulness. In moments of doubt or discouragement, recalling what God has already done can strengthen our faith and encourage us to press on. Sharing what God has done doesn't just conclude a chapter, it propels us forward. It reminds us that if God was faithful before, He will be faithful again. This perspective gives us the courage to pursue new goals and trust His guidance for the future. Testimonies are not just stories. They are tools for ministry, encouragement, and glorification of God. When shared in the right context and timing, they have the power to transform lives and deepen faith. As Christians, our ultimate aim is to align our lives with God's purpose and timing. By embracing silence and discernment, we create space for God to work in and through us without interference from worldly distractions. Let us follow the example of Nehemiah, Jesus, and countless others who trusted God to reveal their plans at the perfect time. So the next time you feel tempted to share your dreams and goals, pause and ask yourself, is this the right time? Is this the right audience? Most importantly, is this God's will? When you allow wisdom and faith to guide you, you'll find that the rewards of discretion far outweigh the fleeting satisfaction of sharing too soon. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who might need encouragement to trust God with their plans. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more faith-filled insights and biblical wisdom.